Third time this week, we're back with the Onnit podcast. This time, saving the best for last. My man, Brian Cushing, is in the house from the Houston Texans. What's going on, Brian? How are you today?
I'm good. Appreciate you guys having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming out, my friend. So I like to start, kind of at the beginning when you have a legend sitting next to me right here. At what point did you realize when you're just lighting kids up in Pop Warner that, hey, maybe I might do this for a living?
Yeah, I mean, it was always something I really enjoyed, and just thoroughly enjoyed. And I always had that vision kind of, I couldn't really see myself watching football and other guys out there playing and knowing that I wasn't. So, I mean, it was from a very young age. I knew I rather wanted to play football or baseball. Sports was always part of just my childhood, just my dad's philosophy kind of instilled in me. And it was one of those things that I had to do. And, it was probably around sophomore, junior year where it kind of became a real thought and a real chance and possibility. And when college teams were talking to me, and I just knew, like, I might be pretty good at this.
Right.
So, and it was just one of those things that I loved so much and knew I had to do it.
Yep.
So there was just no turning back from that point.
Now, you say your dad instilled in me, and that's a tricky subject, especially for dads. I'm sure there's dads listening here, because it's this balance of encouragement and not being overbearing and pushing too hard. What was the balance for your father?
Well, I think I think my dad understood from a very young age that I could handle it. And I think a lot of these parents don't really get that. There's some kids that have that mental makeup that can handle it and they can't. There would be times, and I've told my wife and I told my friends this, and my friends have, told me this. They'd be asking if I wanted to sleep over at their house that night, worried for me after a tough game or walking a couple batters or missing a tackle. But he was extremely tough on me because he knew I could handle it. He knew the makeup I had, and it was one of those things that I wanted to do. So, everyone now is kind of looking at him like, wow, he was kind of right this whole time. and he wasn't that crazy. He just knew what he was doing.
Right.
So, at the same time, my dad's a very loving father who knew how to push my buttons, who knew how to motivate me in all the right ways. So, I think if you know the makeup of your son, know the capabilities he has, it could be a very good combination.
Sure. It's almost like, using that analogy of tempered steel. If you got the right piece of steel,
Right.
you can turn up the heat
Right.
and you can hammer the shit out of it. But if you got a little rusted piece of iron, you put that in the furnace, it's going to break.
No, there's no question. And, I've seen so many different examples, and just, there's certain coaches that have kind of mastered this whole technique.
That's good to know, because I never found fucking one of them. All the coaches I had sucked.
Well, I'll tell you, my high school
And if
coach
you're listening, coaches, I'm talking about you.
my high school coach was not one of them.
Yeah.
But I had my dad, and I had him, and I could take it, but he would coach me the same way as other kids, and they couldn't. And you see kids quit and leave the field and do all this stuff, and that's like I said, you have to understand your players, you have to understand your kids, and I think that'll be the right way to do it.
Yeah, for sure. So then, in high school, obviously, that's when it gets pretty
Yeah.
serious. Were you playing ball out here in Texas? I don't know where you grew up at.
No, I was back in New Jersey.
Yeah,
I was back
okay.
in New Jersey, and just started playing a very competitive, highest level Group 4 football, and I had an option, obviously go to public school, a smaller school, or go to my parochial school, which was the best division, and it was one of those things. I chose the best division in high school. I thought I chose the best competition in college, and that's kind of one of the things you always have to do is just challenge yourself, no matter what you're doing, every day.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like that's what's going to bring the best out of you. I was having a talk with TJ Dillashaw, who's fighting for the title coming up. I was just mentioning that. And, really the great gift that these great competitors give each other is that challenge that's worthy enough to bring their best out of themselves.
Yeah.
And that's if you're not looking for that,
No.
you may want to look at a different profession.
No, definitely. The best guys, want the best competition, and that's the only way you can prove yourself is against the best. And if you consider yourself to be elite, you got to have the hardest schedule or the hardest opponent, and to get to the top, you have to go through the best.
Yep.
There's no question.
So then into college, that's a whole, every level is kind of this major jump, but college is that jump where you're on the world stage. Did that change anything for you? The fact that you were getting kind of recognition, TV time, et cetera, was that?
Well, it was something I wanted. It
Yeah.
was something I wanted and I kind of expected, and it's kind of one of those things that happen so fast, it's almost surreal. You have to step back a moment and be like, wow, I'm playing on national TV every weekend. But you kind of want it and you kind of expect it. So at the same time, it's one of those things that you thought the whole time could happen. And now sometimes I look back and be like, wow, I played in 4 Rose Bowls. Like, I played in 4 BCS games.
Is there, I mean, not many people have played in 4 Rose Bowls.
Two guys have
Two
ever
guys.
started in 2, and it was me and Archie Griffin.
Uh-huh.
So I mean,
That's quite an honor.
Yeah, it's good company to have, and it's just one of those things. Like, I'm coming from a small town, New Jersey. I go to USC to play, and look back, and 6 years ago I was playing at 4 Rose Bowls, and it's one of those things that you knew you did it and accomplished it. So it's wild.
Yep.
Really wild.
That's awesome. And then, of course, the next jump, the big jump.
Yeah.
So, talk us through, we just had the draft. Talk us through what that whole scenario was like, what you were thinking, where you were hoping to go. What was going through your head? What's the secret story of what you were feeling?
I get invited to New York, which is a dream come true. I'm growing up 10, 15 miles away from New York City. You always watch the draft every year, and I get a phone call like 5 days before the draft that, you've been invited to sit in the green room. And they told me, and obviously I wanted to make sure that I wasn't one of these guys sitting up in there all day and having to come back the next day or whatnot. And they told me I go anywhere from 5 to 15. So of course I went 15. So obviously very nervous.
How were you sweating it 14, 13, 14?
I wasn't even talking. I just kind of had my head down, was looking at my phone every second. Had one of my friends call me during the time. So I mean, I was very mad at him for that too. just
hey dude, what's going on?
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Now, do they
you're gonna have to call me.
No,
back.
before they pick you, do they always call?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
so there's no surprises.
right.
You already know.
So 14th pick rolls around, and I was positive I was going to New Orleans.
Uh-huh.
Positive. Had a great workout with them. Had a great dinner. Had a great couple dinners. I mean, we were talking about where to live in New Orleans and stuff. I mean, it was pretty set in stone.
So you were that was kind of the one that you were like,
That was like
if I don't make it there, at least I'm gonna be.
I'm definitely gonna be there. Yeah, exactly. So. So that happens, and then they don't pick me, and I'm like,
who'd they pick? Do you remember?
They picked Malcolm Jenkins.
Okay.
A safety out of Ohio State. They needed a DB, and I guess just last second decision, they just switched their mind, and then I got really nervous. That's when it kind of just reality was sinking in. And I was like,
because then you didn't know where the fuck you're gonna go.
But then luckily the next call.
So how much are you concerned about where you're gonna live your life, or is it more just about the football?
I think that gets overlooked a lot. People just think, Houston Texans, but you're living there. Your
That's
whole
your home.
life changes. Yeah. That's your city, and you have to love where you're living. Or else, that's the key to everything. You have to be happy, enjoy the city. So I was very fortunate to go to a great city. In my opinion, because there's a lot of other cities in the NFL that are not so.
Yeah,
great.
why don't we talk shit about some cities? What cities are not so great?
There's a couple on the list that passed me up that I was pretty happy I wasn't living in. So, then the 15th pick came, and the Texans called me, and I honestly can't even tell you who I talked to because I was just so out of it mentally, just kind of just fried and but just excited at the same time. So it was just a roller coaster of emotions, and I still talk to my owner and the GM this day, and I'm like, I don't even remember if I talked to you guys or not. Just I know you guys said you wanted me, and next thing you know, I was on stage. Next thing you know, the following morning, we were on a plane to Houston. So it's just a 24-hour just circus of events. But it's an incredible experience. I'm thrilled I went to New York because it was one of those things that just you'll never kind of have that experience again in your life.
Yeah, for sure. And then from there, working out with the team, getting ready for that. What was the initial impression as you kind of come in as a rookie? Dealing with these savages.
Yeah, well, you kind of want to set the tone, and you want to just prove yourself every single day, no matter what you're doing, the film study, working out on the field, and the whole stigma, I guess, of the NFL is it's kind of more, as far as physically working out, it's a little bit more laid back than college, because obviously college is full go, you're younger, you got more energy, you're just, really trying to prove yourself and get to that next level. A lot of times guys, they say they get to the next level and they kind of ease back a little, maybe watch more film, and they're a little older and have to take care of themselves. But the number one thing I wanted to do was just, no matter what year it was in the NFL, just kind of stay that path and still act like a college kid and still train like a college kid, because I feel like that was going to separate me. And I remember some vets telling me, like, hey man, you got to slow down in practices and you got to slow down in the weight room. And I just remember just being just infuriated with them telling me that, and just wanted to stay the same and get better, and kind of separate myself, and I knew that would be the way.
And that's something that you're kind of known for, is that kind of work ethic, that relentless drive, and that's seems like not listening to that advice has really been a key path to your success.
It has, because I know that's kind of my niche, that's kind of my thing, and then I've made myself a NFL football player kind of by the way that I just prepare and work, and it's sometimes cost me in some injuries and stuff, but at the same time, I'd rather go 100% and get hurt than play 80% and be healthy.
Well, the big injuries that people know about, and we'll certainly get into that. I mean, that doesn't seem at all related to your work ethic. Those seem more.
No, it doesn't. There's some terms getting thrown around now. You play 3 years or 4 years, you get hurt twice in 2 years, and people are asking, can he play a full season? Can he stay healthy? And it's like, well, I guess you guys forgot the 3.5 other seasons before that I was healthy,
right?
And the endless snaps, and I've had 3 seasons of over 1,000 snaps, and I don't know how many people can say that.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm on the field every single down, and if I'm not going 100%, I'm not going to play the game. And that's just my mindset, because when I'm done, hopefully the thing is that I'm remembered. So.
Yeah. Well, no doubt. Well, I want to back it up a little bit. So there's a certain point where you come out to take your first snap out in the NFL game. How did that feel any different, or is that just kind of the same thing? Like you just expected it, you knew it was going to be there, or was there a moment where you're like, oh shit?
Yeah, there's a moment.
Yeah,
there's a moment, and there's certain players that obviously stick out. I just remember playing against certain players, and I remember playing against like T.O. my rookie year, and we played the Jets the first game, and I just remember just the first snap going literally as fast and hard as I could, and it was kind of close to the tackle. I didn't make it, but I still felt like I did, and it was just the building was just electric, and the energy was just insane. And it was kind of one of those things, I loved it. Mm-hmm. I wanted to keep doing it, and just never look back.
Yep. So let's fast forward a little bit, and I remember watching this past year, and I know that a great deal was made about your road to recovery from your first injury, and it was kind of this awesome story, and I'm watching you, and you go out and you make the sickest interception of all time, right? Just full extension, diving, you grab it. I'm like, oh shit! And we were already kind of talking to you then, and through DeFranco and stuff, and I was like, this is fucking amazing. Orlando was freaking out, and everybody was like super stoked. And then heartbreak happens. So walk us through that, because that was so brutal for me. I didn't even know you then, and it was brutal to watch.
Yeah, it was brutal. And I mean, you put in so much work. And people think, oh, ACL, whatever, he'll heal up, but what they don't see is the countless hours of the same exercises, and there's the frustration and kind of the setbacks. And I'm not talking about major setbacks, but just the little stuff, knee swelling, knee pain, sleepless nights, just all this kind of stuff you put into it to play again. And then obviously 7 games in, a similar injury, not as bad, but a similar injury that took me away from the season happened again. Mm-hmm. But I kind of believe everything happens for a reason, and I kind of believe that I do believe now that I'm a stronger person. I'll be a better player, and it'll only be better for the long run.
I remember I don't know if it was an interview of you or they just kind of got a comment from you, but immediately your attitude was, oh, I'll be back.
Yeah.
Like, and I was like, I was so impressed with that at that moment, because for me, I would expect myself to go on this kind of longer loop, this roundabout. Fuck the world, fuck everything. Everybody go fuck themselves, and I'm gonna go crawl in a hole and be depressed, and then maybe get around to this. I'll be back. But you, like, right off the bat, were like, you know what? This should happen. I'll be back though. And that was really impressive that you didn't need that long kind of roundabout going in the tank. And
Well, I mean, there's certain tough days. There's no question about it. There's certain tough months that some people don't see and don't know what's going on internally with a person. But I have no other option. I really have no other option but to come back and be better. I mean, that's what I am. I'm a football player, and that's what I've wanted to be since I've been a young kid. You can never get off that path. You can never lose that dream. And I'm not going to let an injury define my career. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to let something like that stop me from playing, stop me from providing for my family, stop me from, like I said, being remembered. It's just one of those things. I've played 5 years in the NFL now, and I think I've got another 10. Mm-hmm. And if not more, and until something else happens, or they tell me I can't play anymore, that's the goal and the path I have.
Yeah, it's interesting to hear you say that, because I kind of use that analogy of when people talk about the success that we've had with Onnit and some of the different things. you can't really take that much credit for it almost, or I can't. I just feel like that's the kind of tool that I was designed to
Right,
be. And
right.
it's like if I'm a fork and I have 4 prongs. Well,
Yeah.
my specialty is going to be jabbing food
Sure.
and picking it up. If I'm, if I'm shaped like a spoon, then maybe soup is my specialty.
Yeah.
But for me, the kind of tool that I am, the implement that I am, is good at doing these things that I do. And if I don't do that, then it's like trying to use a fork for a hammer.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, what are you doing?
No.
You know, this is not the kind of tool that you are.
Exactly.
And for you, you're that special kind of tool that is a, amazing football player. And so for you to actually be actualizing your potential, that's kind of what you got to do.
Yeah, you do. And like I said, from a very young age, I was fortunate enough to understand at a young age what I wanted to do and what I had a pretty good chance of doing.
Mm-hmm.
And I ran with it. I ran with it, and I knew that was it, and I had a passion for it, and it excited me every single day. And like I said, I couldn't imagine myself doing anything else, and I think that applies to everyone. It applies to everyone with what you do. And the number one thing is, you have to love your job and love what you do. And I think if you do, you'll never work a day in your life. And that's the kind of attitude I have. And, I talk to a bunch of my friends and who are still kind of just trying to find their way and do certain things. But they're good at certain things. That's what I don't understand, because they can apply it to everyday life or a job or a profession. So,
Mm-hmm.
I think when you find what it is that's your thing, you really have to just attack it with that kind of mindset of nonstop, until you're successful.
Totally. So take us through the actual, the kind of the physical part of this road to recovery. You got this knee injury. Take us through all the way up to what your, a broad bird's eye view of what it takes to get back on the field. Until you're fully ready.
I mean, it's, once it happens, I was maybe a day after, right, in surgery. It was one of those things that kind of need to be fixed.
And what are they doing in surgery?
Well, basically, I broke my leg and tore my LCL this past year. So I broke my fibula head, which is the bone right outside your knee. And I knew something was wrong in Kansas City when I felt it in the back of my calf.
Yeah.
So, and I thought my knee was dislocated. I thought I tore everything again, and I kept telling my knee was dislocated. So they kept trying to kind of put my knee back in, but what they were doing is they were pushing on the brake the entire time. So I was just in excruciating pain. I knew something was very wrong.
Right.
So then immediately we get x-rays there, and they can kind of read everything. But the biggest relief was that obviously the ACL wasn't torn again.
Uh-huh.
And that was pretty incredible considering the kind of trauma and speed of the hit and everything that happened.
Take us through what happened.
Yeah,
there
I
for
mean,
people
it
who
was
didn't see
it was a blitz, and we were playing Kansas City, and I just kind of I went against Jamal Charles, and it was a play where kind of we've been going head up all game, and he kind of stepped wide at first, and I thought he was going to take the outside linebacker, and just last second kind of came back, and it was a completely legal hit, as far as football goes and everything, and just perfectly, obviously with his speed, his strength, going full speed right into the outside of my knee. It wasn't a good combination for me.
Right.
So, obviously, like I said, I knew something was wrong. We got off the field, got the x-rays, did the tests, all the manual tests and everything. And the doctor just basically was relieved more than anything, because we know ACL is it's tough to come back from it, and twice is maybe impossible.
Yeah.
So, that was a relief. And then the next day, kind of we got out to Pensacola. I had surgery with Dr. Andrews. Like you said, it was a relief as well. When he went in, saw everything, and thought that everything would heal up pretty well. But then again, right after that's when the whole process starts again of just rebuilding all that stuff, and kind of, the whole anatomy of your leg just kind of goes to crap for a little.
Yeah, everything starts to atrophy.
Yeah, and it's a pretty depressing thing, looking at your leg just looking like your calf the whole way up.
So do you just rest both legs, or is one leg still super strong and one leg is all gimpy?
I'm crutching around, and I'd be crutching around, and you can use your right leg, and you kind of keep the tone and everything.
Yeah.
But the left leg, it's amazing how fast it shuts down.
So when you're in the bedroom with your lady, do you give her the one good leg side, from the profile?
Yeah.
Like, you look at this.
There's a little bit of time before we get back into that, but no, it's just one of those things that it's shocking how fast it shuts down. Like I said, you got to get back in that rehab room quick. You got to get back to working out, and number one thing is getting your quad back, and then hopefully running again, hopefully cutting, and then hopefully getting back to yourself. So it's a solid 6 months, if not more.
And where are you in that process right now?
I'm really close. I'm really
Nice.
close. You know, I mean, I'm doing everything. The most important thing is obviously the single leg stuff, just kind of just isolating that leg, getting your quad back firing, getting confident on it again, running, cutting, and just feeling as comfortable as you can again to return to football.
Mm-hmm.
So
And then, so what do you think for this this coming year? I mean, is it going to be right in on time, or is it going to be a little bit, kind of coming in halfway through? What do you think?
it'll be. I'll be practicing soon. So
Nice.
it's one of those things that I'm way more confident this time, and this time of year as I was last year,
Mm-hmm.
because ACL is just basically you're just waiting for a graft to heal, and you're waiting for that tendon to strengthen. That can take any amount of time. Where now I know I'm waiting on a bone to heal that's already healed, in all my x-rays and stuff. And now it's just getting back and getting as fast and explosive, as strong as I can for camp, and I'm extremely excited for this year. I'm extremely excited for the opportunity we have for myself and to play a full 16 games.
Yep. Take us through, I know one of the reasons we know you is through Joe DeFranco.
Mm-hmm.
And, and I got a chance to work out with him and see some of his methodologies. Amazing trainer. Take us through kind of what your relationship is with him and how, his workout methodologies helped you as a player.
We have a really special relationship, and it's not just trainer, athlete. This is a guy that has trained me since my sophomore year of college,
Mm-hmm.
sophomore year of high school. I'm sorry. I went to the same high school, very familiar with each other, and when I just started working out with him and noticing the results, was one of those things that I knew, like, this is my guy,
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't a big workout guy, as a sophomore in high school, which I don't think anyone is. You're kind of just feeling yourself out, figuring out who you
been
are
to
as a
Texas,
person.
son. There's some big workout guys in Texas football
I've seen
taking steroids in 8th
I've
grade.
seen it. That's
Like,
crazy.
what the hell are you doing?
I've seen it, though. I've just been here. It's a whole different lifestyle.
Yeah.
Living down here, and I've had some camps at Pearland, and just just the youth programs and everything is just wild.
Yeah.
No, but just getting back to Joe, it's one of those things that he is an incredible trainer, and just very kind of just thinks outside the box. Always looks for the edge as far as training and methods. And you see a lot of stuff Joe doing, and then also some other trainers are doing around the country
Mhm.
very shortly after. So he's very innovative and extremely smart. And I think what he does well is he understands each and every one of his athletes, which a lot of these trainers don't do. They just have a generic plan and just apply it to everyone. And Joe, I think, individually kind of custom tailors each workout to every guy. And
Yeah.
you don't see that a lot. And on top of it, he's got a very good relationship with every one of his athletes, and just makes you want to continue to come back.
Right on. Yeah, I could see that. And I also thought, for someone who ostensibly looks like kind of like a meathead,
Yeah.
and I don't think he'd be even mad at somebody saying
Sure.
that.
No, yeah.
But he spends so much time focusing on, myofascial release and
Yeah.
warm up and getting the body ready and loose
Yeah.
and the body biomechanics of it. It's not just like get in there and
No.
squat, boy.
Yeah.
It's a whole different
Yeah.
concept that he
Yeah.
has of really taking care of the body as a whole, and that's beautiful. I mean, that's really
It is.
important.
It is, and he's dedicated himself completely to the whole training, mindset,
Mhm.
and it's so much broader than just lifting. And Joe has really just separated himself from other trainers with, I think, just his mindset and approach of how to kind of get athletes stronger, but also keep them healthy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a huge part, because we know if you're not healthy, you're not going to perform or play or get paid or any of that. So I think what the kind of approach he's taken has kind of just been groundbreaking as far as trainers, and it's just really, like I said, separated him from really anyone else.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. So you mentioned earlier, you have some friends that have these talents, but something's holding them back from actualizing their potential, becoming a master in
Yeah.
their field, which I think all of us have, a pathway to real satisfaction, using our tool that we have in the adequate way. What's some advice you give them that could be applied to some of these other people listening right now?
Don't be scared of being successful.
Mm-hmm.
Don't be scared of working hard. I think those are the two biggest things, and I think people, and I've noticed this a lot in college, was a lot of guys always talk about, next year I'm going to do this, and next year I'm going to do that. Well, why does it have to be next year? And because by the time next year comes around, you're going to be saying, next year I'm going to be doing this. And the same thing again. So I mean, I don't know. I kind of have a right now approach to stuff because you just have to do things that you thank yourself later in life for right now. And you have to look at yourself as, what am I do right now that I can thank myself for in the future? And that's just the kind of approach I have and always have had. I just believe in hard work and dedication. And like I said, don't be scared to be successful, because a lot of these people get close to that tipping point and get close to that successful point, and then kind of slack off, or maybe think they made it. Which a lot of guys you can see in the NFL maybe think they made it, and then a year or two later, they're out of the league completely.
Mm-hmm.
So I think is one of the things that you've never made it. Because as much as you have, there's someone that's done better than you.
Mm-hmm.
So just continue to keep pushing and continue to go after those goals that you really love and want.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. You hear and I find it myself. I'm not trying to say that, but you see it in other people even more dramatically, where it'll be, we have one guy here in the office, and if he's listening, he'll know who he is. But it'll be like a Tuesday, right? And so we're on a Tuesday. We're like, hey, when are you getting back in the gym, or when are you getting back on your diet? Either one, and be like, I'm gonna start fresh on Monday. It's like, that's 6 days away. Why you wait till Monday? But for him, like, you have this idea, and this same idea is like, yeah, I'll do that next year. Or I'll start this at the beginning of the year. Well, just do it now.
Yeah.
Like, get a head start, because perpetually doing that, waiting for these marks, these lines in the sand, those don't even mean anything anyways. It's not like you stick to it because you started in the line in the sand.
Right.
You just got to every little time do what you can, rather than saying, I'm going to fucking completely blow it till Monday. And then Monday, some new person is going to show up, and that new person is going to have the dedication to not do all the shit that I'm going to do till then. Bullshit. That new person's going to last for like half a day, and then the old person's going to come back, and it's going to be next Monday or the start of next month, or wait till boat season, or whatever other excuse you got.
No, I mean, I think that completely applies again to finding what you're passionate about, because that that example you're giving sounds exactly like me when I was in school.
Mm-hmm.
About just having something to do on Monday, and it was Tuesday, and saying, oh, I'll do it Sunday night, because I wasn't passionate about it.
Right.
But you have to find what you love and just go after it.
Yeah, no doubt. What are some tips then on the purely kind of physical strength and conditioning side for someone in a more kind of a competitive setting, and then just more in like a recreational setting that you would kind of pass along?
Well, I think both. You have to find a routine. You have to find a routine. You have to find what works for you. You have to keep things consistent. You have to stay on that path, and if it's working, continue to go for it. And I think that applies to guys that are in the NFL, guys that are in college football, or guys that are just in the working world. I think that kind of applies to all facets of life, and people that want to get better, and so and obviously I understand there's certain guys that kind of stray from the path a little, but as long as you stay close to that goal, keep your mind on track, physically, mentally, whatever, like I said, and find what works for you.
Yeah, that makes sense. Lando, here you have a chance with someone you're a real fan of.
It's no secret that I'm a Houston Texans fan in this office.
So what are some questions that you want to ask Brian here?
Well, obviously, there's been a transition in the team,
Sure.
New coaching staff, and we were talking about this earlier. You're mentioning some things about the difference in the strength and conditioning now that you have with a new coach there. So if you can walk our audience through the difference between the old way and the new way, I think that'd be some really important information.
As far as strength and conditioning?
Yeah.
Before we were kind of just a very big Olympic lifting team. We'd have about an hour and a half workouts and kind of then go run, and it was just a very older technique of just going about our lifts and strengthening ourselves. Now it's very fast, up-tempo pace. I was, kind of talking before. Everything's kind of supersetted, and the workouts are condensed. But at the same time, I'm noticing that I'm getting in a lot better shape now. When I'm just keep moving the entire time, still getting the same amount of strength gains, and I'm just very excited about the whole philosophy and attitude over at the stadium now, because it's a very right now approach, like we talked about. There's a sense of urgency, and everyone's held accountable. I think if any workplace you have like that, I mean, there's no room for anything but success.
Yeah.
So.
Do you find yourself looking at J.J. Watt every once in a while and going like, what the fuck, man? Like, does he do crazy shit in the gym?
No, I think he looks at me and says that.
I like it.
So no, JJ. I mean, I'm being honest, but at the same time, JJ is a freak. There's no question about it. And I think that the combination of him and I, we're very competitive people. Have very similar mindsets and a lot of stuff that we want to get done in life. You know, at the same time, it pushes us. You know, and I think competition is one of the best things in the world, and especially if you want to get better. You know, you got a guy in the same team, in the same weight room, watching the same film as you, and you kind of want to edge each other out the entire time and kind of get the upper hand. It's only going to make both of you better.
Yeah.
So this draft seemed to be pretty defensive draft heavy. Jadeveon Clowney and nose tackle. You know, what can we look forward to for the defense this year?
Well, you know, and it's one of the things that Coach O'Brien's kind of really stressed is he wanted to be a bigger, tougher, more physical football team. And that was, I think, obviously something that we got done in the draft. I mean, we got some real freakish athletes coming in, big, strong kids that love to play football. And he's got just a really good mindset. You know, I think he really just wants to physically just beat teams down. You know, I think as a linebacker and anyone that loves playing football, that's kind of your mindset in anything you do. So, obviously, it was a very good defensive draft, but I think it was a very good draft overall for the whole team. I think we got bigger. I think we got better as a football team, and I think it's going to really pay off, you know, come time for the season.
Makes sense to me. Well, we're all looking forward to it. I know that for sure.
Yeah, no,
I think it's, you know, even though last season probably didn't turn out the way that you wanted, it's been kind of cool to see, you know, the Texans kind of start to creep into the hearts and minds of, you know, just average, everyday people out here who just admire and respect the kind of work ethic that you guys go through, and especially on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, it's one of those rare circumstances where you're looking forward to when the defense is on the field rather than the offense. No offense to the offense, but you know, it's like, oh yeah, the defense is back on the field. You know, which is definitely a cool thing, something to be proud of. Well, man, we're looking forward to working around today and getting some filming, getting some footage, and getting to hang out a little bit. So appreciate you coming down. And if you had to say anything as far as the Onnit stuff that you've experienced so far, anything stand out to you?
You know, I've been a fan, you know, from the beginning. And obviously, Orlando and I have been talking for a long time now, and it's just, you know, obviously it's a how do I say it? It's an industry that can be, you know, obviously very tainted, you know, and I think that you guys have come across very honest, truthful, and have great supplements, you know, that have done nothing but benefit me, you know, and any of my teammates that have tried this stuff have completely loved it. You know? So, I mean, it's one of those things that I've loved since day one. I've noticed the improvement, the benefits, and everything. You know, and there's not one supplement that I haven't really enjoyed. So, you know, it's one of those things that I hope to continue to take and definitely feel greater, stronger, faster from all that. So, and a better person, you know. So, I mean, obviously it's helping physically and mentally.
Right on, my friend. Well, looking forward to today. And again, thanks for coming. And Onnit people, we'll catch you next week. Do we got anything coming up next week, Lando?
I think we're clear.
It's feast and famine with the Onnit podcast. Much love, everybody.